The views and opinions on the Craig L. Hayes Show do not necessarily reflect those of Westgate Resorts ownership or management. And now, on with the show.
Welcome back to It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Glad to have everybody listen to the show. And we're still here with Jeff and Frieda Morgan. We're talking about showbiz. Well, that's the whole point of the show since it's called Showtime. And we're going to continue on with our discussion about our lives behind the scenes in Las Vegas showrooms and other places. So let me see. We got kind of through a little bit of Splash with Frieda, and then Jeff was talking about Casino. I want to go back to Jeff. Let's go to after Casino. We'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff you did. And
Well, I think that, yes, trying to remember my timeline there. I did a lot of other motion pictures as well, a little bit here. Started doing, after Casino, I moved on to the Desert Inn. I was working backstage there. Joe Reed got myself and a few other people in over there. We were doing Sugar Babies, I believe it was. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Guys and Dolls is what we were brought in to do. I was working as an assistant flyman with Randy Chug. From there, we did throughout that whole show. Good memories there. I remember one time we had forget the actor's name. He was the original Riddler on the Riddler on Batman.
Frank Gorshin.
Frank Gorshin, thank you so much. Yes, he was there, and I'm sitting on the rail in between. I'm learning knots and rope, and I'm tying knots and everything, and I ended up making a pair of glasses. Well, those glasses went to a towel cape around me, and I took silver tape, gaff tape, and I taped a big R on my chest, and I'm running around as Railman. And I saw Frank working his way over to stage left, and I hid behind a black curtain, and I jump out, and I went, "Stop, you fiend!" He looked at me, shook his head, and walked off. Up in the button booth, stage right, I see bouncing white teeth, and it's Lenny Polk up there. He caught all this, so he was laughing. Then we did a lot of Star Policy after that. I worked with a lot of great people. I enjoyed working with Don Rickles. We had, of course, we had a lot of the country bands, Martina McBride in particular. I worked with the Mavericks, and unfortunately, just hearing about Raul Milo, who just recently passed away, with them. We did Sugar Babies as well with Mickey Rooney was in it, Juliette Prowse. I had a great time on that. Then Caesars decided to buy the property, and they took a lot of our shows away. And so I'm back on the bounce a little bit and doing more film work, and enjoyed that. So after that, I got moving on to a lot of different things. As you know, we bounce around an awful lot. I ended up doing I was at the Rio with Penn and Teller. Worked them for about a year before I got shipped off to Montreal for 2 weeks looking at scenery, working with Celine Dion, 6 years. Absolutely the best show I've ever done. I was very much not wanting to do any more shows. I am so grateful for that opportunity that I had working with her. Fantastic human being. Celine is, her family, the whole group of us was just absolutely awesome. When they shut down, we had Bette Midler move in. Worked with her for about 2 months when I got an opportunity to do an interview, automation interview with Phantom. And I was hired the next day, Glenn Snyder. And then when they shut down, as I think I mentioned before, I moved on PRG, working scenic over there. So,
Well, good.
yeah.
Well, we'll take a little bit of each of those a little bit more as we go, but I want to get Frieda back in the show here. Take the spotlight off of you and put it back on your wife here for a minute. So I'm just going to real quick just talk a little bit more about Splash. And we talked to the differences between Splash and
Jubilee.
and Jubilee.
Yeah. And actually, when I first moved here, I went into Jubilee for a couple days and thought I would never go back there again because the wardrobe women were older. When I started, walking through the dressing rooms, it was very segregated back then. They had the ebony line, and that's the one row of girls, they were all black. And they only sat in a certain area. They were only in a certain numbers in the show. And I remember walking through, and I was like 27 years old, and coming from Hollywood, when I saw that how it was, I remember walking by the black girls thinking, this is against the law. And they all looked at me, and that's what they were thinking, but they wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And when I said it, it gave them the strength. They went to the NAACP or whatever that is, and that's when they came in and to Don Arden and Fluff and told him, you cannot do this. You cannot have a black line.
Yeah.
You have to have, all the dancers have to be doing all the numbers. And that's when that show changed. And of course, years later, I went back after Splash, but at the time, I couldn't believe that Vegas was like that,
It was through the 50s and stuff like that until like Frank
was in the
Sinatra.
80s,
I
though.
know, and isn't it weird how things will hold over? Just stupid things like that hold over. I mean, my mom used to tell me about that and going seeing shows and seeing like the Mills Brothers, but they couldn't walk in the front of the hotel. They had to come through the back of the hotel to go perform for the people.
Yep.
And had to leave through the back. They couldn't go out in the casino, and it really, same thing. Man, my mom was always so mad about that stuff and would talk to people and they say, oh, that's just what it is. Until Sinatra came in and said, this ends. And finally it started ending, and
Yeah.
but even 25, 30 years later, like you're saying, there was still some
And
holdovers
even
for
at
some reason.
Splash, I don't know if you remember dancer Darren. He was black, and he came to work one night, and the night before he was driving a girl dancer home, Millie. She was white, and they got pulled over by a cop, and they kind of roughed him up, thinking, what are you doing with the white girl? And this was in the 80s. In my mind, how could this even be happening?
Yeah.
And it was bad back then.
Yeah, some old bad practices just seem to want to hold on for some reason. But bigotry and racism, you're never getting rid of it. It's just,
Yeah.
what are you going to do to fight against it? And what are you going to do to stop it in the areas that you can?
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be people who are bigots and racists and stuff, and that's just never going to end. As long as there's people are going to have these human frailties or problems. So, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Splash was a madhouse. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It
It was fun.
It was so crazy there
And it was
all
like,
the time.
and being backstage, you were in front, but being in the backstage area, and the two shows were different. It was always new. It was always stimulating. You weren't like going on autopilot because you couldn't. And it was nice. But once, I hate to say this, but once Jeff Kutash took over, it changed, when the hotel owned the show and ran the show and your mother, head of entertainment, it was run better. But once Jeff could start talking to us like he used to talk to the dancers, I lasted maybe 2 months and I left.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gone before that. I'd
Yeah.
left before they had taken over, and they took out the tank and they put an ice show in called Splash.
Yeah.
How does that?
They got rid of the tank. It's like,
Got
how
rid of
could you
the-
have Splash without water?
Exactly. Whatever. No, I enjoyed it. The show was pretty crazy. But I had been doing lounges and stuff before that. I worked in lounges for years before that, And lounges are like that. Lounges are shoot from the hip, go, 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 because you only have 10 minutes to set up the next act real quick
Yep.
and fire it off and let's go again. They do 45, 50 minutes. They get off, you fire up, I mean, you change out, 6 different sets of everything every night. And so I went to Splash and it was like, oh, this is still kind of crazy. I kind of like this over here.
Yeah, and
know?
I thought every show was like that.
Yeah, and
My time here on this property, when I worked in the lounge, relief lounge operator, had the opportunity to work with Christine the Sting, Carlene Toronto. I was actually here for Tiffany's reunion tour. But yeah, same thing. What you're talking about, we're changing in and out all the time, and whenever we can in between, if we have burnouts or gel changes, we're moving around like crazy trying to get that stuff done. So.
yeah, I worked with Christine and Carlene down at the Mint, because that's where I worked, was
Right.
for 3 years there, and from 84 to 87, then rolled over to Splash in 88.
Right.
So they were good to work with. I loved working with them. They were nice people, just great
Absolutely.
people. Loved their shows, great everything about them. And I can't even count how many hundreds of different lounge acts I worked with down at
Right.
the Mint, man.
Yes.
It was
Made in
two or
America. Made in America was one of them that was down here. Mine just went blank on another one I had in my head, but yeah, I had some pictures taken with them, pictures of them, autographs, things like that. So yeah, they were all great people to work with. Those that I worked with out here.
showbiz.
Yep.
All right, Frieda, what else? We'll wrap up Splash here. Anything else you want to talk about Splash before we move on to Bally's here?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it was fun, and it was a hip hop show, and I think it was in the water show. I think it was like ahead of its time. It wasn't like any other show on the strip.
Yeah.
And I will say though, those dancers got paid more. That was the highest paying show on the strip for dancers. They'd make $1,000 a week, and shows like Jubilee and Follies Bergère, they were making like $500 or $600 a week, those girls. And of course, they didn't dance like at Splash. I mean, that was a heavy dance show.
Very heavy. Yeah, it was all just. It was all modern stuff. It was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole modern dance things and the pop locking and the was the spinning on your head stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They would do all that. It was crazy stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun there. And
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's where we started, so to speak. We were both there quite a few years, and it was fun. And I grew up with the dancers then. And of course, by the time I went over to Jubilee, I could have been the dancer's mother instead of their friends.
yeah,
It was different. There was a couple older girls that were there and guys that were there a long time, and where Splash new people would come in every 6 months, even though Jubilee and Follies and them had auditions every 6 months, most of the girls stayed and the guys. So the dancers didn't change too often. And that's a big difference.
yeah. Well, there are people in Jubilee who worked the same cues in the basement or whatever it was for like 35 years.
Yes, and I couldn't do that.
Oh no, I some people like doing that. Some people just like knowing that I just have to go do this, and this, and this, and this is what I do, and then I make my paycheck and I go home. I'm done.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do it.
I did wardrobe in the singers' room, and I was with them for 8 years. And then I was kind of like, I didn't even have to think about what I was doing. I mean, the maintenance part with the costumes and stuff, they were all, even all the costumes in Jubilee were fantastic. I mean, they were all designed by Bob Mackey.
Yeah.
And after 8 years, I went to Donna, that was head wardrobe, and I asked to do another set of cues so that I just needed something different. And
Yeah.
I ended up in the tall nude room. And of course, I'm 5'2", and all those big backpacks. The girls, the average height was about 6 feet. And at Jubilee, the dancers were like 5'5" tops. They were all like my size. And then going to Jubilee, they were all way taller.
Yeah.
And of course, the backpacks and different things you put on, they were much heavier. And it was a whole different, everything was different about the show and the people that worked there. And like you said, a lot of them, they stayed on the same cues, whereas, after 8 years, I was in a room 2 years, and I said, Donna, can you move me somewhere else? And in that 20 years, I did quite a few different sets of cues. And then near the end, I even asked her, if somebody's off, I'll go do their cues and you can have someone do mine. Because I would go and do the cues that basically wardrobe was alone. And when somebody bounced in, they went on cues that they were with somebody all the time. Because there was a bigger stage. We had elevators. It was
Yeah, it was a dangerous show. Yeah, it was a dangerous show.
And also, backstage there, because after the fire, I guess a wardrobe person died there, and of course other people in the hotel, and it was haunted. Backstage late at night, when we used to do maintenance on costumes, in the basement, that's where wardrobe and a lot of the stagehands worked when they weren't on deck. And going up that ramp, that whole area in the back, it was you could feel people walking around sometimes. And I remember running up to the loft, like 3 flights up from wardrobe, to get a costume, and it was dark. And I opened the door, and I saw someone sitting in the room in black. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And when I flipped the light on, nobody was there. And I ran downstairs. Freaked out. And back then, Teresa Harrington worked there. Her mother, was also in wardrobe before her. And Teresa told me, yes, it is haunted. She goes, did you see the wardrobe lady? And I said, yeah, it freaked me out. And she goes, oh, she won't bother you. And I go, but when you go in a dark room and nobody should be there and you see someone there, it's scary.
It might bother you. Yeah. They say there's places in this hotel too. I guess they probably all have some kind of apparitions going around them.
Yeah,
The one I heard,
over DI, yep.
and the one I heard, the really big one is the El Cortez. They actually have a tour, and you can go in there and they pay to go into this room because they say it is so haunted. And I'm like, really? Well, that might be kind of cool to go do. See who it is that's hanging out around there.
Yeah, we kind of had that experience too, with the building where the mob museum's at too. We were doing a setup inside there in the courtroom, and the guards were telling us about, you may hear some noises, and sure enough, we thought we could hear something. I swear I thought I saw somebody staring at us through the window and disappeared pretty quick. But that they say that location is haunted as well.
And that used to be the old post office, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I wonder what that's about.
I don't know.
Someone went postal in there back in the 50s or something.
Bad stamp or something. Who knows?
Who knows on that stuff? Now, this place, I've told people about stuff I've seen around this place on the stage. Wayne Newton talks about having seen Elvis, in this room. I've actually been on stage and I hear someone walking around up in the Anti-Pros, and the lights are on, and you can hear the footsteps going across the corrugated steel up there. You look up there, but you don't see anybody moving.
Right.
There's no one up there moving around. It's like, okay, so I guess we got a visitor up there that's, trying to get a free seat for a show or something up there. But, that stuff doesn't bother me. I just find it fascinating. I think it's kind of cool that we have that also in this town.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
But like you say, I don't know how people could do the 35 years doing the same set of cues and all that stuff. I did Splash for that 6 years, 6.5, and I did not ever want to do a production show again. And then This place called me up and said, "Hey, we need a new head carpenter. You want to come over?" And I said, "Leave a production show to go to another production show?" I said, "Not really." And they said, "Well, here's what we're going to pay you." And I said, "I'll be there in 2 weeks."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Star Policy has always been the best for me, too. Enjoyed meeting all those stars, getting pictures and everything else. So, and just hearing their music you grew up with, Elton John, one of those as a child, you hear a particular song and then you see him live performing that, and it just brings back a lot of emotional feelings, things that we were going through growing up at the time. It's Star Policy. I don't think you can beat that.
Yeah.
And that's at the Riviera, there was Star Policy too.
Oh, yeah. We had some of that.
And
That was hard stuff. That was 24 days of Splash, 4 days of Stars,
yes,
24
and the
days.
dancers worked 24 days without a day off to get the 4 days off at the end of the month.
Yeah, they were screwed over on that one.
Yeah, and,
Real bad.
and us, we had the option to take those 4 days off for wardrobe or come in and do maintenance or maybe get invited to work the Star. And I did work a few of the Stars, and one of them was Tony Orlando and Don and Jerry Lewis when they were there.
That was a fun show. Boy, that was a fun show.
And it was fun. I mean, it was different than Splash, but it was kind of nice. And we had that day off every week. So to us, it was like normal working the month. But for the dancers, and then if a Star canceled, they ended up, I remember at one time, 52 days without a day off.
Yeah,
And that was crazy.
that was just brutal.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and Kutash didn't care about that. He was like, whatever, just get in here or get out. Take your pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's thank God we were union and we had the rules, and
Yeah.
that was it, We were lucky.
Yeah.
But
Let me check my time here. See where we're at. Why don't we'll get ourselves set up here. We'll take a little break here. It's a couple minutes early, but that's okay. And you're gonna hear me click this thing. Sorry, people. I could mute it like a professional, but I didn't. So, folks, we're going to take a little break here, go get us some water, and come back and do some more discussion of showbiz with Jeff and Frieda Morgan. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show.